Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Winchester League is delighted to welcome you today at the races, especially since this is the first one in a while, and this year we're so pleased to see contested races. Alan McDonald is our moderator today. Alan's the executive director of the Mass Business Roundtable, a current town meeting member, a former selectman, and a member of our pension funding board as well. There are town meeting members here and candidates for uncontested offices, and we will introduce them at the beginning of the program. So when we're done here, you can have a snack and meet the candidates for all these offices. Without further ado, our time is limited. I give you Alan McDonald. Thank you.
Judy, thank you very much, and thank you to the League for this afternoon's chance to meet the candidates. Before we introduce and hear from the selectmen candidates and the assessors candidates, I want you to have a chance to meet some of the folks who are here for a town meeting election. And they're going to introduce themselves without speeches, but say hello, and you'll see who's running for town meeting who's here with us today. And you can hear that the microphone just went on. Let me start with Cynthia.
Cynthia Latta. I'm running for town meeting member from Precinct 6.
Lori Minetti. I'm running for town meeting, Precinct 3.
Sam Kunavis. I'm running for town Precinct 4, and I'm also, I guess, a candidate for the school committee, already uncontested.
I'm Michael Schindelman, and I'm running for town meeting from Precinct 7.
Hi, I'm Margaret or Peg McKenna, running for town meeting member from Precinct 7.
Thank you. I'm Sam Stroud. I'm a town meeting member, but not up for re-election. I am running for re-election to the planning board, one of 2 seats that are open this year. Thank you.
I'm Kevin Drum. I'm running for Library Board of Trustees, uncontested, and I'm also running in Precinct 4 for town meeting member.
Good afternoon. Kathy Bodie. I'm running for re-election to school committee. I'm also a town meeting member from Precinct 3. However, I'm not running for re-election this term. Thank you.
Maureen Meister. I'm a candidate for town meeting, Precinct 3, and also a candidate for re-election to the planning board.
As you heard, in addition to the town meeting members, we have uncontested candidates here. Kevin Drum for the Library Board of Trustees, who a candidate for re-election, has been on the board since 1999, and we heard from Sam Stroud and Maureen Meister, who are candidates uncontested again for the Planning Board, and Kathleen Bodie and Dr. Sam Kunavis, who are candidates, Kathleen for re-election and Dr. Kunavis for first term on the Board of the School Committee. So those are uncontested candidates. We're going to hear now from the contested candidates. We have 2 candidates for the Board of Assessors for 1 position. And we have, in the case of the selectmen, 3 candidates for 2 positions. We're going to hear from the assessors first, and then we'll hear from the selectmen candidates second. We have 4 minutes or up to 4 minutes for opening statements, and then we will have questions from the audience who are here with us, and then closing statements will be only 2 minutes apiece. But we're going to begin with the assessors, and do I understand we're going alphabetical order on the opening statements, Eric? Our first candidate is a candidate for re-election of the Board of Assessors, Eric Josephson.
Thank you, Alan. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I'd also like to thank the voters of the town of Winchester for allowing me to serve the community as assessor these past 12 years. It has been my pleasure and my distinct honor to do so. I wish to retain the assessor seat for which I've been elected to. Just as some background on my professional experience, I am currently the Vice Chairman of the Board of Assessors. I have also been Chairman of the Board of Assessors for a number of years previously. I am a Massachusetts accredited assessor, the only professional assessor for the town of Weston that's sitting on the current Board of Assessors. As I was saying, I'm a Massachusetts accredited assessor, the only professional assessor on the Board of Assessors. My full-time job is as principal assessor for the town of Weston. I'm also the immediate past president of the Middlesex County Assessors Association, a member of the Mass Association of Assessing Officers, a member of the International Association of Assessing Officers, a licensed real estate appraiser by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and also a licensed real estate broker for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In fact, my family is, I believe, the first real estate office in Winchester, as we opened our office in 1918, and we've been selling real estate our family since 1918. As far as community involvement goes, I have been a member of the Winchester Town Day Committee since 1997. I'm a former town meeting member from Precinct 7. I'm also the former chairman of the Cable Television Advisory Committee for the Board of Selectmen. And as far as my personal data goes, I am educated through the Winchester school system, a lifelong resident of the town of Winchester, and I reside in Winchester on Inglewood Road with my wife, Jackie, my 4-year-old son, Ryan, and my 1-month-old son, Adam. I respectfully ask that you allow me to serve another 3-year term. It's been, again, my pleasure to do so. And I will enjoy answering all the questions that people have for me and for the office. Thank you very much.
Steve Powers. Steve?
Thank you, Alan. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having this forum to give some information to the citizenry. I hope that they will show up and vote and know that there is an election on the 25th of March, Tuesday. I also, for the candidates, for all of us, it's a little better. This is, in Bill O'Leary's words, 8 days and a wake-up call when you're at the election, which is a good time to be. If you're out at the dump moving around, although it hasn't been too bad this year, it's a little mild. My background, I have a business management degree from Northeastern University. I was on the school committee from 1984 to 1987. I was on the Board of Selectmen from 1988 to 2000, being chairman in 90 and 91, and 99 and 2000. I'm a town meeting member from 1985 to present. I'm actively involved with most of the sports groups in town and a 55-year resident of the town. Getting into the assessors might seem funny, but it is a subject that I'm interested in. I think people don't know a lot about it, and I think that I have some suggestions, and I think due to the long-term membership of the existing members that it might be good to give a fresh look. I think if elected assessor, I would give each and every taxpayer and property owner a fair and reasonable assessment by a thorough review of the value in each neighborhood. I think the neighborhoods need review. I know I've gone over this with Mr. McGurl. There is a map, but I think it needs update. I think citizens who want a hearing should get it. They shouldn't be denied outright. There should be a hearing and fit in somehow in a 3-month period. I think the bill should be itemized. I heard that from one of the selectmen candidates, and I agree. We've taken land off there, so now you get a bill when you don't know what your land's worth. You just get a total number, and I think that can be worked in. I think we should promote the availability of tax exemptions and deferral options, which are available through the state. And the state circuit breaker law for Winchester seniors is one that a lot of them would meet surprisingly, that they if their income is $40,000, for instance, and you take 10% of that and the tax bill's $6,000, they can get a rebate of $500 just by applying. I don't think they know it. I think the assessors have tried by sending it out with the bill, but I don't think people are paying that much attention to it. Another thing that I'd like to look at, and this is a result of looking at what went on in Weston, that they have an assessing review committee appointed by the Board of Selectmen, which I think is a good idea, to take a closer look at the assessments and the policies and the procedures, which I think would be a good idea for the town of Winchester. They've been the same as far as I know politically, and probably as far as Eric knows, and I think it would be a good idea. And what they have, the town manager is on that committee, along with the director of assessments, 5 citizens at large. You get someone that knows marketing, someone that might know a little bit about computers that could interface, a statistical person that could help you. One of the things that bothers me is this mansionizing around town from a standpoint of how it affects other people's values in the neighborhood. If they take a house down straight and build it up and it's $2.5 million and it's going to affect everyone that has an $800,000 house right next door, I don't think that's proper. I really don't know the procedure to find out how to do something about it, but I think that should be reviewed thoroughly. Those are a few of my ideas. I think Patriot Property, in my opinion, didn't do a real good job. I would not vote for them to do the next reval if elected assessor. I think the important thing is value. I think what your assessors do is determine the value of the property, and to say that it goes into the state and they certify it, they only certify the statistics that they're given, so that the value, the input of the other people is not there. Thank you very much. Please give me a vote for assessor on Tuesday, March 25th, and don't forget to vote.
Candidates in the traditional debate style will go in reverse order on the closings. We'll go reverse alphabetical order on the closings. But to continue with our alphabetical order, our first candidate for the Board of Selectmen is Carl Friesel. Candidate for re-election, of course.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking some time from what seems to be a beautiful day and perhaps hope of spring to come, finally, to New England. Thank you to the League for once again hosting this informative session. Very important to have this exchange. I want to thank my fellow candidates for also appearing here this afternoon and actually thank them for the race. I'm enjoying this race, and I think a race is good for us to really bring out the issues that are before the town of Winchester. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I've lived in town since 1981, been here a little over 20 years. The first 10 years I spent trying to raise a family and make a living, and we have 3 daughters, and I spent a lot of time in youth activities with them, been a soccer coach, and also been active at the Winchester Boat Club and with the Community Schools Organization. And then 10 years ago, I joined the Finance Committee, put some of my day job expertise to work for the town. I'm an attorney, and I spend my time advising businesses on their legal problems, mostly in the business and tax areas. And I've served on the Finance Committee for 5 years. I also was the chairman of the Finance Committee. And then took a year, not on any particular committee, but still a member of town meeting, which I joined in 1994 and have been a member since from Precinct 7. And in 2000, ran for the Board of Selectmen. In that year, 2000, I made promises of how I would perform that task and where I would spend my time, what I thought the priorities for the town were, and have tried to work very hard in 4 principal areas. And the first one was addressing our recurring budget crisis that we had in the town of Winchester, where we had a budget situation where we were constantly competing between the capital budget and the operating budget. Do we spend $1 to pave a street? Do we spend $1 to put a teacher in a classroom with state mandates upon us and higher class sizes? And what have we done? Well, I think we've accomplished a great deal in the course of the last 3 years in that regard. We've established capital improvement policies, dedicated revenues for capital programs. We have a dedicated reserve policy. We have a free cash or earned surplus spending policy between operating and capital. We've established the stabilization funds for capital and buildings, as you know, through the success of the override last year. Second area I thought we needed to spend a great deal of time was dealing with the flooding issues here in Winchester. It's a serious public health, public safety problem. We're very fortunate there hasn't been any loss of life because of these floods. And as we know, these floods are going to occur more often because of upstream development. What used to be 50, 60-year storms are becoming 10 and 20-year storms. We have a plan. It calls for 16 improvements along the Aberdona River. It calls for 35 areas of improvement in local drainage areas. We've completed 3 of those 16 projects. We've made substantial progress on at least 4 other of those projects, and we're going to continue in the next few years to go down the list of those projects and make those improvements. Again, thanks to the override, we have a source of funding to help the town meet its share. But what we're trying to do is to spend everybody else's dollar first. Federal dollars, state dollars, anywhere we can find them rather than local dollars. 2 other areas. First, improve the infrastructure in this town, and most importantly, complete the school building program. We used to compete between districts. Well, we have the money to complete the school in my district ahead of the other district. We have a building stabilization fund. Everyone's going to get their schools rebuilt. We're rebuilding the Ambrose School this year. We're rebuilding the field at Leonard Field, again, thanks to those capital budget improvement plans. And lastly, maintaining the high quality of services we expect here. By the override monies and the financial plan of the Board of Selectmen, we have the money to provide the quality of services on the municipal side and the education side that we want here in Winchester. Thank you very much.
I don't know how to use a microphone, so bear with me. I want to thank Carl for saying he's enjoying doing this election. I am not. I'm just trying to get used to that. So just go along with me and bear with the fact that I'm very nervous about this. A lot of people have asked me why I want to be on the Board of Selectmen. I've thought about doing this for a couple of years now. I have 3 main reasons why I want to do so. One is experience and background that I have. I've lived in Winchester for 26 years. My 3 children grew up here and went to the public schools here. Starting around the time they were in junior high, I started doing things in town other than just sports and school-related activities. I'm a founding member of the Friends of Art for the Winchester School Department. I was the chair of the Winchester Arts Council, which is a state-mandated council now called the Cultural Council. I'm currently the chair of the Cemetery Advisory Board. I was the vice chair of Envision Winchester, the big one, the first one, the one that worked. And I've been a town meeting member for about 6 years now. I also ran the census, the federal census in Winchester, and learned a lot of very interesting things through that. The second reason that I'm interested in being on the board is that I think there needs to be a lot more open, effective communication between the citizens of the town and the town government. When I was on Envision Winchester, I got to listen to literally hundreds of people talking and writing to us about their concerns. Some of their concerns included things like the fact that less than half the people felt that communication was good between the town and the citizens. And people will now say, well, we hold all these hearings and whatever. Well, not a lot of people come to hearings, but people want to be heard and they need some way to be heard. Another thing that they were not happy with was that the town was not very welcoming towards them. In point of fact, I was just talking to a young gentleman who's running for town meeting in my precinct, and he has put his name in within the past year or 2 for various town boards and did not even hear back a simple thank you for even trying to apply. So, I mean, there's simple things and then there are complicated things that we need to take care of. And the third reason is that I do like a challenge, and things are very challenging in Winchester right now. The financial system is in some trouble, federally, statewide, locally, and things are only going to get worse before they get better. I think that we need to become better at making some hard decisions, making them more quickly, and taking care of things, not sort of lurching crisis to crisis, but having long-range plans. And those are my reasons. And I would like to say to Carl that I just hope we get through this election being as pleasant as we've been so far. And I thank you all for coming today. And I can't talk anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And our third candidate for the Board of Selectmen is a candidate for re-election, Chuck Nurnberger. Chuck.
Thanks, Alan. I first want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this day at the races, but I also want to thank you all for taking the time out today from your busy schedules to be here. I am Chuck Nurnberger, and I'm a candidate for re-election to the Board of Selectmen. When I was first elected to my first term of service to the Board of Selectmen, I made a commitment to the voters to bring a voice of reason, fairness, and balance to the job. By listening carefully to what you had to say and doing my very best work with you and with the rest of the board to make Winchester a better place for all of us to call home. During my 15 years of public service to Winchester, I've had the privilege to serve on not only the Board of Selectmen, but also as chair of the Planning Board. Having also served on the Finance Committee and Capital Planning Committee, I am uniquely positioned to continue to bring a wealth of well-rounded experience to the Board of Selectmen. My goal as a member of town government has always been and will continue to be to advance the town's agenda in a positive and inclusive atmosphere. Effective long-range financial planning, economic development, attracting and retaining a strong team of town employees, supporting excellence in Winchester Public Schools, historic preservation and conservation, flooding and drainage solutions, strategic planning for Winchester's vision for the future. These are important issues that affect every member of this community. It is with these key initiatives that I have not only demonstrated leadership and commitment, but more importantly, I have delivered results. But there is still much work ahead to be done, and I need your vote on March 25th to continue as your selectman. The past 3 years, the Board of Selectmen have been very productive, and 15 years of experience in various positions within the town government have enabled me to be a vital part of this successful team. The Board has made finding solutions to flooding and draining problems its #1 priority. During my term, the Board has developed a plan for investing $3 million in drainage improvements and won the support of town meeting. We created a staff flood mitigation group to begin implementing the flood mitigation recommendations of the recent CDM consulting study of the Abachona. A second study and implementation plan for Hom Pond Brook is being developed. The Board also favorably settled the Cummingsville sewer litigation, which avoided a potentially disastrous approach to sewer expansion upstream of Winchester. The Board of Selectmen has been busy in other important matters as well. We filed a Public Work Economic Development grant for North Main Street in the amount of $2.3 million. This grant money will be used to rebuild and improve North Main Street to meet the needs of the growing business community as well as the needs of the residential neighborhoods. Improvements will include pedestrian-friendly walkways, improved lighting, landscaping, and state-of-the-art traffic controls. Other initiatives I'm proud to be involved with include the Swanton Street Park, the Sanborn House Reuse Committee, which I chair, and the systematic renovation of our playfield, starting with Leonard Field in the summer of 2003, and then the McDonald Field in FY04. As a member of the Finance Committee, as a former member of the Finance Committee, I felt strongly that the town should have a financial blueprint, a long-range financial plan for the town. As a result of the successful passage of the $4.5 million override that I supported last March, the town now has that long-range financial blueprint, a funding source to rebuild, remodel, and replace every single town building without asking for another dollar. The March 2002 override provides funds for rebuilding all of our playfields, provides some funds for our flooding programs, repairs sidewalks, and maintains our infrastructure. During my first term, the Board of Selectmen established the Facts Committee to conduct a complete analysis of the services requirements, operations, and finances, including revenues and expenses and financial management practices of the town as a whole, encompassing both municipal and educational functions. The Board of Selectmen appointed some of Winchester's best and brightest to help us understand revenues and expense issues and provide benchmark comparing the services and associated costs as compared to communities that surround us. The Board has adopted many of the recommendations of the Facts Committee to improve efficiencies in the town operation and will continue to address the remaining facts recommendations in the month ahead. Thank you.
The candidates to try to answer them 1 minute at a time per response. See if we can get through, how many we can get through. First one is for the Board of Selectmen candidates, and that is, what is your long-term vision with regards to Section 40B? That's the housing, affordable housing section in the state law. What's your position with the use of Section 40B, or Chapter 40B in the Mass General laws in the town of Winchester? And let me start, I'll ask Carl Friesel to answer that first, and then the next question we'll ask Jane Murray to answer first, and we'll go that way around.
Okay, thank you. The
Excuse me, Carl, I guess it would be easier for the camera if you stand up. Please. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the microphone that works for the TV. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, that's important. Well, 40B I don't think is something we'd want to see, a 40B development in the town of Winchester, partially because we just don't have that much land left. I mean, we're a built-out town. And what the Board of Selectmen and frankly, the board, even before this current board that I've served on did, was try to stop such a development from happening up on the west side at Winning Farm. And that was potentially a 40B development. And instead, I believe it's turned into a win-win from Winning Farm for the town of Winchester, because we will get over 30 acres of open land. It won't cost us a dime when we get this project developed. We'll get 140 units of affordable housing. And the way in which you avoid 40B in those kinds of massive developments that you have no control over, but the developer totally controls, is by meeting your state mandate to have 10% of your housing base as affordable housing. And that will go a very long way to getting it done and providing housing we need for independent living and assisted living here in the town of Winchester for the seniors of this town. My only hope is that we get it done in time for me to be able to use it.
Thank you. Jane Murray. Sorry to make you come up here, all the candidates, but we need to use that microphone.
This microphone. I do not have quite the information on 40B that's available to the Board of Selectmen, but I do know some of the answers on that. I think that, once again, Winning Farm is one of the ways to go, get some of our affordable housing needs met, as well as taking care of assisted living and other things. I talked about that the other night on television by saying that if you had single-family houses up there, you'd have money for the town when you sold the land, but after that you'd have large houses with lots of kids, you'd have new classroom and teacher needs, you'd have new town infrastructure needs, and these would never be paid back by the amount of taxes assessed on each house. I also think that the town has got to look at some different way. I mean, it's too bad that in some ways it's too bad that our housing costs are so out of whack right now, because the town needs to look at other ways to get affordable housing. We also need to sometimes think about, there are people who talk about having mental health homes here, halfway houses for various things. There are all kinds of sort of urban needs that are moving out to the suburbs that we need to look at, and 40B is a mechanism to point us on the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chuck Nurnberger.
Thanks, Alan. Chapter 40B is what they call a comprehensive permit process, and what it really does, or what the effect it can have, is developers can buy a parcel of land and use Chapter 40B as a way to override all of your local zoning and building codes. That's the bad part of what I think 40B does. But it doesn't have to be that way, because you can have a friendly comprehensive permit where a developer would come in and work with the appropriate boards, whether it's the Planning Board, Board of Appeals, Board of Selectmen. And so it doesn't always have to be a negative, and it can provide some very much-needed affordable housing opportunities. It does provide for some increased density, which in some instances may be a good thing. So Chapter 40B has some good pluses and some bad sides. It depends on the actual case by case. I wouldn't categorically just reject it, but on the other hand, I'd be very careful as how it's used in Winchester.
Thank you very much. And a question for the Board of Assessors. It's a specific question about who may be paying the real estate property taxes on some land the town owns that's being used commercially on Cambridge Street. I would ask in general the question, how is the town receiving property taxes on town-owned property that is being used for commercial purposes?
It's a fairly simple question. As in all exempt organizations, if it is leased for a taxable, non-exempt purpose, the tax bill was sent to that organization directly. For the property that we're talking about on Cambridge Street, the bill was sent to Bonnell Ford, and they are responsible for the bill. Also, I just want to clarify a couple of things that my opponent had said. As far as the circuit breaker law, the reason a lot of people aren't able to do that is because the value is capped at $425,000 of your house. If you exceed that, you're not eligible. Also, the Board of Assessors and the Director of Assessments does all in-house revaluations. We do not have Patriot Properties do it. We have outside people that go to door, but the actual valuation is done by the Board of Assessors. And also, a reason that a lot of people do not defer their taxes is that the income limit is $40,000 and is capped at a rate of 8% interest. So a lot of seniors, A, do not want to have a lien on their property, and B, they're not happy with the 8% interest that they have to pay. So that, I hope, clarifies a few points.
Did you want to speak to that, Steve? Steve
Quickly. The one to do with Bonnell, I won't answer. I guess my own personal opinion is that it's like the clubs. We're on a witch hunt for clubs. We want to tax them in businesses if they don't own it. If the bill comes to someone like Bonnell and it says Town of Winchester, care of Bonnell Ford, that's not a bill. If it had Bonnell Ford on it alone, it would be. But I think that's some of the things that we'd have to look into. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to the selectmen candidates. The question is, new rates at the town transfer station, town dump, are higher for residential, $150 per residential household and $100 per ton for commercial use. The comment in the question is that this may be charging residents a premium unless residents haul as much trash to the transfer station as commercial haulers do. Please comment on the rationale for charging residents a premium if indeed you feel that is the case. Okay.
I do not feel that that is the case. No matter what we're charging right now at the transfer station, that does not begin to address the cost of what the transfer station costs. I think that, I'm sorry? Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Is that better? I feel like my voice is roaming around up there. I think that the fees are fair. I mean, we are going to have to pay for whatever we do with our trash, no matter if we go to an enterprise system or pay-as-you-throw or whatever. I think that charging these new fees, changing some of the management practices at the transfer station, instituting additional personnel are all part of what are going to make the transfer station's function and finance both much more appropriate. And since there's nothing we can really do about any of it until the NESA contract is over in 2005, we should just be watching to see that the Board of Selectmen Town Manager's Office oversee the transfer station in the closest way possible.
Chuck, and then Carl.
Thank you. The residential sticker fee of $150 is based on calculations of 2 tons per household. So the tonnage fee they're paying when you divide it by 2 is $75 a ton. The commercial hauler's rate is $100 a ton. It's a little bit more. And there's been a lot of discussion as to whether that's fair and reasonable. The bottom line is, I think the Board of Selectmen, at least this selectman, is interested in making sure the transfer station is available to all the citizens as a resource in the future. And one way to do that is to really put it on an enterprising fund, enterprising pay system, so that it actually, the rates that you charge will carry the cost of doing the business. So that's really my goal. I'm really interested in finding a way to make sure that the transfer station is available to all of us as a resource. And in order to do that, it has to be on a firm foundation financially. Thank you.
Carl Freisel.
Thank you. The $150 fee which the board recently adopted for the residential sticker, which becomes effective January 1st, 2004, and the $100 a ton commercial, is really a premium in the other direction, frankly, for the reasons that Chuck just gave you. It really is about 1.88 to 2 tons per household, so really it's less expensive on the residential sticker than if you have a hauler take your trash for you to the transfer station. The reason we did that was to discourage some trash from outside Winchester. We only want Winchester trash at our transfer station. And this was a way to make sure that's what happened in the Winchester transfer station, and we kept the cost of the operations down. We're currently paying too much money. We all know that. the cost of disposal at that transfer station, excuse me, is about twice the market. That's going to come down in '05 when we're done with this contract, and I serve on the special study committee of the Board of Selectmen to see what we're going to do when that contract's over. And one of the things I'm hoping for is a trash dividend, that we're finally going to see a relief on those high disposal costs. And in the fiscal year 2000, 2 years from now, we're going to actually see, hopefully, somewhere up to $1 million of savings in the town budget that we can put to other uses. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for the assessors, specifically to you, candidate Steve Powers, about your specific training and qualifications for the assessors. You may feel that you addressed that in the opening remarks, but we do have a question. Could you please be specific about that? Your background for which you feel you're qualified to help out as an assessor.
Thank you, Alan. I think that question, other than needing a Department of Revenue 101 test for certification on the taxes, there really isn't a requirement in the state for that. The other licenses would be good. I ran for the Board of Selectmen. I'd never been to one meeting. I think I did a pretty good job. I ran for the school committee. I never was at a meeting, and I thought I did a pretty good job. I think it's homework and fair play. You're willing to do the work that it's necessary, and I would not be running for any office if I wasn't willing to do the work. So that's my answer to that.
Sir. Thank you, sir. And Eric, you have a chance to comment if you'd like to on that question. Don't have to, by any means.
Obviously, I'm not going to talk about other people's experience. The only other clarification I wanted to make was that the Board of Assessors, in my tenure, the 12 years, we have always held public hearings for those taxpayers on abatement applications who have requested that, and we will continue to do that. We have also held forums at the Jenks Center and our office for seniors to see if they're eligible for certain exemptions, and we will continue to do that. And the only final other thing is about the land maps that we have in our office. Those are constantly updated. Neighborhoods do change over time, and we do change the valuation of neighborhoods accordingly due to the market sales in that neighborhood and throughout the town of Winchester. Thank you.
For the Board of Selectmen candidates concerning the override, I'm going to meld a couple of questions here. The question, first of all, was what is your position specifically regarding this year's $800,000 override? Does this represent the interests of students as the highest priority in the community if you do feel in favor of the override? A matching question is whether Governor Romney's budget decisions so far are making it imperative for the town to vote for an override. That's a mix, and you can speak to both at the same time if you'd like. Chuck Nurnberger, you get to be first.
Thank you, Alan. Thanks for the question. Appreciate this one. I actually voted against putting the override question on the ballot, and I did so after many weeks of thinking about it and talking to my colleagues at the table. Fundamentally, I came to the conclusion that at a time when the stock market is declining, unemployment rates are increasing, looking at my own personal financial situation, the 25% increase that I saw in my real estate tax bill this year, looking at the town manager's budget and trying to understand what it was he was trying to accomplish with his budget, I just came to the conclusion that based on the town manager's budget, which is in balance and has been submitted to the Finance Committee, it accomplishes some things that I think are important without asking the taxpayers for more money. It provides a 1% wage adjustment for every single employee in town. It provides employment for the same number of employees FY03 to FY04. And it also provides for wage and track adjustments. So at a time when the stock market's declining, unemployment is increasing, the outlook for the economy is not good, I think the town manager's budget's right on target. I think that FY05 we're going to be in more serious trouble. I think that's really something that we need to start right away and take a look at by forming a new committee to take a look at alternatives to overrides. I'm not opposed to overrides generally, but I think as a selectman, I'm elected to exercise leadership. I did so on February 10th, 2003 when I voted against putting it on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, and Carl Freisel.
Thank you. So unfortunately, we have only 1 minute for this one, because I'd like to take at least 10. I have 2. Great. What a luxury. I was used to the 1-minute drill from WinCam on Thursday night. This is a luxury. Okay. I'll start with to say, first of all, I respectfully disagree with Chuck on this, and that's okay. And I respectfully disagree with anyone who wants to vote no on this question. I respect your right to vote no. I understand why you might vote no. These are tough economic times. I'm going to vote yes. And I became convinced that the right way to approach this was, because it became to me a major decision for the future of this town, that it ought to go on the ballot, and the citizens ought to make the ultimate decision if we're not going to say yes to this override. And that's because I looked at the governor's budget, and the governor's budget has serious ramifications for this town. In '04 and '05, 2 of our most difficult years, things I do hope will get better for all of us in '06. The economy's got to come back at some time. And in '04 and '05, we face a loss in combined years of $2 million in local aid. And I thought it would be wiser for us to make a down payment towards the next year by a cushion for reserves, by borrowing some reserves this year in our rainy day fund, which we're doing, by making some reductions in the budget, which we're doing. The compensation package for our employees, 85% of our budget, is going to be tighter than it's been in the last 5 years because of these economic circumstances. By making some reforms in the budget, and we're doing that in the transfer station. We're trying to make that a pay-as-you-go enterprise. But the fourth component here is revenues. And I don't think we should kid ourselves about this. We're a service business, the town of Winchester. While there is RoboCop in the movies, there's no RoboCops in Winchester. We don't have police enforcement by robots. We don't have teaching by robots. It's by putting people to service for the citizens. It costs money to do that. And we have a choice. We put a sound financial plan in place last year, and that was widely supported by the citizens. We can go back. Let's not kid ourselves. You can't have no taxes, no higher costs, and continue the level of services. We've got more students to educate, and we owe this generation the same quality of education that the other former students had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Jane Murray.
On the first part of that question, I'd like to say I think that my personal vote is my personal vote. But since somebody is really asking out there, I will tell you I am voting yes for the override. However, I am just one vote, and I'm pleased that the Board of Selectmen put the vote for the voters of Winchester to decide. My yes is just going to be part of the total at the end. I think, however, that since the override was put on the ballot, that even though Mr. Nurnberger voted no, not to put it on the ballot, since the majority voted yes, that he should be part of the group that is supporting it and that should be getting more than a little lip service this time. I think that if we had started perhaps voting overrides earlier in the history of Proposition 2.5, we wouldn't have come quite to the pass we came to last year when we had to do such a large override. I think that having to use free cash is really too bad. I think it's the sort of money that's seed corn that we need for the future, and it's just going to come about because of Governor Romney's budget that we are going to have to use free cash. We're going to have to rely more on fees, which are things you cannot take off on your taxes, whereas part of an override you can do that with. I think these are all too bad. What I mostly think, though, is that the Board of Selectmen needs to be able to find the time to get into long-term revenue planning with the input of a lot of citizens, and not discounting anything right now as a way to make money, just looking at everything that is out there. And that way we should be able to do better in the future. Thank you.
Statements that will give us just about enough time to fit into the WinCam schedule of the 1 hour, and I do appreciate that. So 1 minute apiece on these questions, and I'm going to give you one more chance on the financial. We have 3 questions that kind of meld again, and that is whether you think maybe an expense growth policy as a fixed target percentage would be useful for the town and school sides of the budget. And in relation to that, there's another question which says, do we think, how do you feel a COLA, cost of living adjustment in the town, should be continued or not continued? And generally, what we might do for additional revenues along the way. You've spoken to that a little bit, but those are the three questions. I'm putting them all together. And if we could begin, who do we finish up with? Carl, are you first this time? Okay.
Does that mean I have 3 minutes?
Yeah, 1 minute for those three. They all come together.
They're telling me one.
Yeah, 1 minute. This will give us time to finish up on that.
All right. Here we go. One thing when you look at the governor's budget that becomes very clear, he's got a problem, and he's solving it with us. He's saying to the wealthy communities, I'm going to solve my problems by putting them down to your level. I'm going to cut your local aid, and he's challenged us. He said, if you think those services are that important, you go vote for them. All right? So that's the choice we're going to have to make on March 25th. I do believe, and I said at the selectmen's meeting the night we voted this, that I believe a task force needs to be in place starting now, and we have 15 citizen volunteers with financial expertise called the Finance Committee. Let's use that expertise. If there are other citizens with financial expertise that serve on facts and otherwise, let's get that expertise too. But let's look at targeting. Yes, targeting a certain level of growth in the revenues and the expense to be in balance year to year. To say we can go without COLAs is to be unrealistic because that's not competitive with what every other community does. Will we have lower COLAs? Yes, I think that's realistic. Can we look at revenues other than overrides? Yes, we can. We've looked at a lot of fees in this town. We've done that. We have a land transfer tax warrant article, something to look at too, and other ideas. And that's what this task force should work on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know this is a lot to talk about in 1 minute, but it does relate to whether...
Okay. I'm not really sure what I want to say about this, but I think that there is, doing this a little backwards, I think there is no way you can get rid of having a COLA. I don't think that that's fair for our municipal and education employees. I know that everybody out there is having lower raises, lower this, lower that, but they're not being asked to take nothing, and we shouldn't be asking our employees to take nothing. For fixed percentages, I'm not entirely sure what I want to say about this, but I think that Governor Romney's budget is I mean, he's doing what he thinks is appropriate, but we are taking the hit for it, and I think that we are going to have to find ways to make up what's going on. We're already undermanned in our town. We're underfunded in all of our programs, and the people of this town are asking for a lot of things. We don't get them for free. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Jane. And Chuck Nuremberg.
Thank you, Alan. I think I would fundamentally support a fixed percentage growth for Winchester. I'm not exactly sure how we would manage that, but and I have to agree with what Carl has just said. We say with regards to the task force, I think we need to get started with that. And I am very interested in the land transfer tax. It seems to me the land transfer tax might be a way to generate revenues on a recurring basis based on the selling of property in Winchester, be a one-time percentage, maybe split between the buyer and seller. It seems to me that we buy property here in Winchester for $100,000, and 20 years later you sell it for $700,000, and in the meantime we're paying to educate your children, we're providing public service, we're providing all kinds of services. So I mean, see, it might make sense depending upon what the percentage is and how that whole program works. Whatever we do in the next 3 years, I think we need to have some balance. It has to be reasonable, and I think it has to be thoughtful given the economic conditions that we face.
Thank you very much. I'm going to put two together here. 1 minute answers for this. It relates to the open dialogue discussion during the campaign. Could each of the candidates tell us what they believe the role of public dialogue should be in local government, and what's been done during the past few years by those who are incumbents to see that happen, and on the role of appointed committees such as the Facts Committee, the Envision Winchester Committee, that kind of thing. Where do they fit in as implementers or supporters of policies that come out of the discussions of the committee? And we begin with Jane Murray, I think. Yes.
Thank you. Well, as I said in my opening statement, one of the things I'm running on is the fact that I think there needs to be more open communication. Envision Winchester certainly was an eye-opener in terms of the number of people who were telling us they were not happy with the amount of communication that goes on. I understand that the Board of Selectmen, for example, has limited ways in which to inform the public, but I think that there are small ways that can just keep people engaged with what's going on in the town. I think that all the committees in town, Facts Committee especially, were extremely important in getting everything out to people. I'm sure there are a lot of people who did not read the facts report. I wish that everybody did, because then they would better understand what was going on with the town finances. I would certainly commit, if I'm on the Board of Selectmen, to trying to find new ways of talking with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nurnberger.
Thank you, Alan. I think one of the hallmarks of my 15 years of public service is the fact that I think it's vitally important to listen to the neighborhoods and to the citizens and to the taxpayers. And I think this particular Board of Selectmen in the past 3 years has done a good job opening up communications with the citizens. We established the Facts Committee. We established the Winchester Envision program. A lot of good has come out of that. So I think that the last 3 years of this Board of Selectmen, we've done a pretty good job. Can we do better? Absolutely. Usually at the Board of Selectmen, when in doubt, we have a public hearing. I can't think of an instance where we've actually shut out anybody from dialogue, communication, comment, or concern. We're always there. We're always willing to listen. We have matters from the audience every selectmen's meeting where anybody in town that has a question, comment, or concern could come down and express that, and the Board of Selectmen would respond. Like I said, could we do better? I guess in terms of communication, we can always do better. But I think we've done a pretty good job, and we will continue to do so.
Very much. Mr. Prizell.
Thank you. Overall, more citizen input is better than less, obviously, and we'd like to get as much as we can on issues. When we appoint an advisory committee and give them a task to do, and they do it, as the Facts Committee did wonderfully with citizen input, and then they came to us and said, our job is done. We have a life, please restore it. And we did. And they went on to do other things. We've had hearings with hundreds of people this past summer in this room, in the high school, and at Town Hall, on how we should design our streets for traffic calming purposes for the future of Winchester. We had hearings over at Jenks on flooding with hundreds of people in attendance, and we solicited their input. We had hearings last year on the financial plan on the Board of Selectmen, including a whole afternoon at the Jenks Center, in which we solicited input from the citizens. I supported Envision Winchester in continuing that process. I supported Envision Winchester 2, which still exists. Envision Winchester still is here. The job of Envision Winchester 2 is to take the strategic plan, which is being drafted once it has some flesh on the bones, and go out to the community and solicit that input. So I'm in favor of more. Thank you.
I pledge that I will do the job if elected and give each and every taxpayer and property owner a fair and reasonable assessment. I'm not saying it hasn't been done. I think one of the problems you have, if you have three of the same people most of the time, other than a 3-year stretch, that they tend to look at things the same way. I think that we can use a fresh look. I'd like to see the tax bill itemized. I think the public wants to see as much information on a tax bill as they can. And I think the Assessing Review Committee is a great idea because, yes, I don't have all the qualifications, but having sat as a selectman for 12 years in school committee, I know something about policies and procedures, but basically I don't know a lot about the policies and procedures of the assessors because not much of it comes forward and it's all done. And there are hearings, but nobody really sees them, and the meetings aren't that public. And I think it's time that we brought that out. The seniors are having a tough time staying in town, and I think we're going to have to look at all these tax makeups and everything, and I'd welcome a committee like that to review things for the assessors so that at that point we can move forward with better rules and regulations. Please give me your vote on Tuesday, March 25th, and remember to vote.
Thank you. In these difficult, tough times in our state and our town, we must continue with stability and professionalism in the assessor's office, not change. We must protect the tax base of Winchester in order to both maximize the town's revenue while allowing and ensuring all property assessments are fair and equitable, and thus represent current market value as of the assessment date as required by the Department of Revenue. And in doing so, we at the Board of Assessors have consistently averaged about $150,000 in return to the general fund from the overlay account, approximately $1.1 million since I have been on the board. To our seniors, we will continue to hold public informational forums, both at the Board of Assessors office and at the Jenks Center. To you, the voters and property owners of Winchester, the Board of Assessors will continue to hold hearings with you to discuss your property assessments. These must be an executive session under state law as dictated under Chapter 59. Also in closing, in the facts report, it noted that the Board of Assessors office, as part of the Department of Revenue's audit of all departments in the town government, found that we were the only department which recommended no changes were necessary for operating the office. So for these points, I would respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, March 25th, Eric Josephson, first name on the ballot for assessor. Thank you very much.
For the Board of Selectmen, beginning with Chuck Nernberger.
Thank you, Alan. I think I would support discussion in town meeting and any place else in Winchester for the Cities for Peace. As you're no doubt aware, Winchester, like many cities and towns, faces significant shortfalls due to a depressed economy and cuts in local state aid. With a deficit projected at $1.2 million for FY04, the Board of Selectmen have significant challenges ahead of it. I am confident that we can face those challenges more effectively because of the long-range financial planning we've already put in place and the targeted overrides that were passed last year. But to succeed now, we must stay the course and maintain fiscal responsibility. In doing so, we must be sensitive to the current economic hardships many citizens are facing and not overburden them with unnecessary tax increases at a time when they can least afford them. The Board of Selectmen has and will continue to work hard to prudently manage the town's finances to help us address our needs today and enable us to move forward with the town's vision for tomorrow. The next 3 years will be very important to the citizens of Winchester. And while I can't promise any magical pot of gold to balance the budget, I do promise that I will continue to bring to the Selectmen's table a voice of reason, fairness, and balance, as well as the experience necessary to make the right choices for the town of Winchester. Please help me continue this essential work for the future of our community by giving me one of your 2 votes for Selectman on March 25th. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to go right back to the first 3 points that I made when I initially stood up here and say I'm running because of my experience in town, my many years of service. Very eclectic, very low-key. A lot of people do not know me, but I've still been out there working hard for the town. I also would like to say if the Board of Selectmen does set up an assessors panel, that I would certainly like to be part of that. I worked as a real estate appraiser for many, many years, trained by Eric's father, as a matter of fact. Also, the fact that I'm very public in saying that I like to make big, difficult decisions. I do not like making tiny decisions. And certainly big decisions are pretty much all the board has got ahead of it the next few years. I have a vast amount of common sense to offer, and I would like to get across some ideas to the town that, for example, the budget is the town budget. It is not split into 2 parts. We should not be spending our time having 2 sides of town, not geographically, but the school and the municipal, fighting against each other. I also find that there is, in point of fact, a lot of fighting against the different sides of town, and people need to learn that we're trying to do a lot of things in difficult circumstances, and we need to do it as one community. Thank you.
It's been an honor serving as your selectman for the last 3 years, and I have to say, I'm going to end with where I started. I'm enjoying this race. I enjoy being on the campaign trail, and I have to say it's a very humbling experience. Listening to the voters tell you how you've done over the last 3 years. I compare it to being home at night talking to my teenage daughters about how I'm doing as their dad. It's a very humbling experience indeed. But I believe the town's on a roll. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last 3 years in the areas I mentioned of financial planning, on flood and drainage and capital improvements and infrastructure, on our school building plan. And I know there are some troubling economic times now. There are some troubling economic times at the state, the cutback in local aid. We've discussed that this afternoon. And there are ways that we could get through what I think are the two most difficult years ahead of us, this current fiscal year and fiscal year '05. I believe the sun will be brighter in fiscal year '06 in our own budget, and also it has to be in the economy by then. I'm running again because I want to keep that momentum going. We have made that kind of substantial progress on our strategic planning effort, and I want to keep the ball going. I want to make sure it gets done. These projects are not on automatic pilot. They take leadership to get done. I believe I've provided that leadership. I have a record of leadership over the last 3 years, and I want to continue in service to this community. So in ending, I'd say, don't let this tough economic time get us down. We put in place sound plans. We have, as a community, identified the quality of life we want in Winchester. Let's not let these tough times stand on the way of doing exactly what we want to do. Let's take the governor's challenge, and let's decide as a community if we want to keep the Winchester we know and love. Let's keep the momentum. You have 2 votes March 25th, and I would sincerely appreciate one of those 2 votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you to our candidates. Thank you to our audience, to our candidates in the audience. Thank you to John Shawcross on the camera, to all the members of the League of Women Voters for the beautiful job of putting this together, and especially to our great friend Judy Musia, to whom I'm going to give the microphone back right now.
Thanks, Alan. He said it all on what looks like the first day of spring. I'm very impressed with the turnout. Thank you very much. And if you appreciate what the League does, you can always join us like John Shawcross has done, our volunteer cameraman. We are not just women, we're men too. So we'd be delighted to have you join us. Please stay and meet your town meeting candidates and the uncontested candidates, and eat, drink, and make merry. Thank you very much.
Hey, same to you. Take a look, Steve. I'll see you Wednesday, next up.
Yeah, that's it. That's the next one. They won't let us say much. We'll be kind of quiet.
That's okay.
Same question.
Good job, fellow candidates.
Eric, did Eric give you a long-term forecast? Right now, it's saying for election day.
Now,
well, it's, right now it says, no, it says light rain and 44 degrees on election day. So that's okay.
too long rain to be at.
That's okay. The override, the developers. Yes. But you know, the first year Priscilla got on, when
70 degrees.
no,
That's right. We all had sun.
we were all out there, women standing. Yes, 89, I went home with shorts.
We were in.
Yes.